So, what's up people and welcome to the chapter 114 discussion of Kaiju 8号 or Kaiju number 8. So chapter 114 came out a few days ago, and as always I will leave a link to this chapter that's currently being shown on the publisher's official website, Manga Plus, for free to the North American audience. So if you're interested, we'll go take a look at it before they pull this chapter back. Okay, so if you recall, in chapter 113, Kafka, or Monster Number 8, was in a relatively peril situation, where the remains of Monster Number 9, which probably has now transferred to that main monster, had attacked Kafka, and we were left with a cliffhanger. So we expected that this would start out right from that point, but what we find out is that this chapter starts out a little bit different. And what was interesting about this chapter was this is a chapter that was relatively full of dread after reading this. You know, overall, Matsumoto Naoya is a relatively light-hearted writer. Much of the story goes relatively as you expect, and there's a tremendous amount of wholesomeness in many of the chapters. However, Matsumoto Naoya can write situations that are very sentimental, that are very sad, and many times that are very tense. And chapter 114 turns out to be one of those tense chapters. An extreme one, in fact, and it's probably one of the chapters that I find most unnerving. But the chapter starts out relatively straightforward. We get a backstory of Monster Number 9. We don't know exactly how it got into existence, but when it did, it started trying to figure out what exactly it was and where it was in the environment. And so it started living a relatively peaceful life in the forest, avoiding people and just basically living off the land. But eventually, of course, the monster would encounter humans, and when it did, it found out that it was quite powerful. And that realization brought a whole new feeling to Monster Number 9. It wanted to know more about itself and these people, and so it wanted to see just how far and how powerful it could be, and at the same time learn more about these humans. But along the way, it eventually encounters that giant monster. And that's all we get out of this backstory. And immediately we go back, but we don't go back to Kafka, we go back to Leno and the JDF. And what they find out is that those monsters that they were fighting have stopped moving. And typically when that happens, of course, that means that the host has been destroyed. And so everybody's excited, and Iharu basically tells Leno that Kafka must have destroyed Monster Number 9, which basically is true. But what we of course know is that the other monster has awakened. And in this chapter we find out from headquarters that Monster Number 8's core has been destroyed, basically indicating that its life, or at least the monster's life, should be dwindling away. But in addition, it's detecting an additional new life signature from Monster Number 9. And they're all perplexed because they knew that Monster Number 8, or Kaiju 8号, had destroyed Kaiju 9号's core. So what is going on? Now as readers, we of course know because there is that other more powerful monster in there, and Kaiju 9号was basically just the avatar that it was controlling. But what we find out as we keep on reading is that this little monster seems to have had a tremendous amount of hatred for this big monster. And despite the fact that Monster Number 8's core has been destroyed, that little monster seems to continue to control 8. And we see that it tries to fight back. But at that point, I did say that this chapter was quite tense and disturbing. And you get this image of Monster Number 9, which to me was one of the most uneasy images that I've seen throughout this entire series. Now, of course, we know what this is. This is the big monster coming out. But the way Matsumoto Naoya drew this, this was pretty nasty. And what was interesting is, despite Monster Number 8 coming back in tremendous amount of power, when that big monster was awakened, 8 was immediately destroyed. It didn't take any time. His arm got torn off, and basically it got swiped away. And you see monster number 8 immediately taken down. And this really sad image of that little girl who has been cheering monster number 8 on to see that her hero has been destroyed. And headquarters confirms that monster number 8 has lost all its vital signs indicating that it has died. Has Kafka died? We don't know. But whatever the case, it has literally pissed off Mina. And she starts asking headquarters to drop additional ammunition because she's about to destroy this monster. But before she can do anything, once again, this monster is so powerful and so immediate, it doesn't even telegraph its moves. And her special weapon is destroyed in an instant, and the impact is so powerful that it smashes her back. And so by doing this, we realize just how powerful this monster is. Within an instant, it could literally destroy everything around it. But of course, this is Mina we're talking about, and she's not about to give up. And she brings out her handgun, and she's trying to fire it to take out this monster. But we end this chapter in an extremely uneasy situation where you see these foreign characters written right on Mina's face. And what we find out from the earlier parts of this chapter is that is the characters that come out right before this monster fires its slicing beam in that coordinate, which indicates, of course, that the big monster is about to slice Mina right in half. And during this entire time, we hear whatever is left of Monster Number 9's voice saying that no matter what this big monster has encountered, nobody, not a single living entity, has ever survived. And so knowing that this big monster can immediately fire its slicing beam where it aimed, we know that it's only a fraction of a second beyond this image that Mina's about to get sliced in half. And of course, the chapter ends in this cliffhanger, and we'll have to wait until chapter 115 before we find out what goes on. But it also leaves us with this feeling of what can go on, right? Monster number 8 is out, or at least it seems to be. None of the other JDF members are nearby. At least we don't know of it. And so who can save Mina? Well, I guess we'll have to wait until chapter 115. And knowing Matsumoto Naoya, there may be another character that will come in clutch, or that will get an inner reflection from Kafka within Monster Number 8 that will bring him back and save Mina before her demise. But we'll have to find out what happens in chapter 115. And once it comes out, I'll bring out another video and hope you join me at that time. But this is the chapter 114 discussion of Kaiju Hachiko or Kaiju number 8. If you read it, what'd you think about it? Did you find this one to be quite unnerving based upon the sheer power of this new monster? And also, do you feel that depending upon what happens during this battle, it'll indicate whether this series will continue to go on? My feeling is that if this big monster somehow gets away, then it will replace Monster Number 9 as the new adversary for Monster Number 8. But if it doesn't and Monster Number 8 somehow defeats it over the next few chapters, then it seems to imply that this series may come to an end. I don't know, there may be additional monsters that still come up, and there's still the question, where do these monsters come from? And maybe Matsumoto Naoya will explain that in the near future. But in any case, it will be interesting to see just how this story ends and how this will reflect on whether the series will continue or not. But anyway, if you have any comments, please post them in the comment section below. And until the next episode, happy manga reading, and as always, Jaya, nice day everyone.